Good morning, folks. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys can agree with me that we're having another fabulous Sunday so far. Welcome to the Addicted to Gear live show, Sunday edition, AM version, not the PM version that we usually, we usually do the AM version, but last week we had the late night edition, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. So today we're back to our usual time, and I hope you can hear me. I'm just gonna increase the volume a little. Actually, it's pretty much maxed out, so I'm just gonna put the microphone a little bit closer to me here. How's everybody doing? Welcome, guys. I'm really excited to see you guys all here, and we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. So I want to get started. First, I want to say thank you for not only joining me on these Sunday shows, but also I want to give a big thank you to everyone. We actually managed to hit and surpass 30,000 subscribers this week. So that's a heck of a milestone, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank you guys. I really express my heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you tuning into my YouTube channel regularly and helping us reach the incredible milestone of 30,000 subscribers. So your support, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions have all been the driving force behind this journey. And I couldn't have done it without you guys, honestly. I started sharing my passion for music and creating content, and I guess it resonated with some of you out there, and it's been an amazing ride. So thank you so much, and a big thumbs up to you guys for continuing to tune in to Tony and his crazy Addicted to Gear show. And we're not only creating a milestone together, guys, we're also creating memories, right? So as I usually like to say, remember, you have to be subscribed, guys, to be able to chat. So it takes, once you're subscribed, it takes a couple of minutes and then you're able to chat on the live shows. So I just do that because I want to avoid any kind of people just, jumping in and putting weird comments there. So that way we can subscribe you, we can unsubscribe you. We haven't had the need to do that, but it never hurts to be safe. So if you want to chat today, just make sure you're subscribed and then jump right in. So thank you so much, you guys, for the kind words of congratulations. Paul, I wish I had a Ferrari. I only could afford this shirt. I don't have a Ferrari at all. Far from it. So, I'm just a poor YouTuber. So, it's going to take a while. I'm no Rick Beato or something like that could afford to pay a Ferrari with the money he's making off of YouTube. It's going to be a long way before I get to that point. Eddie, don't worry. I won't forget anybody along the way up. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. It looks like we have a good crowd today, and we got people all the way from Peru. We got people from Arizona. We got people from the States, from Canada. Very cool. Very cool. Dan says he enjoys the AM show. So Dan's an early riser. I like the AM shows too. It's definitely a different vibe when you're doing this early on in the morning. But I am a night owl. I do definitely get creative in the evenings. So I don't know if I'd be able to do evening shows all the time, but I think it's going to be one of those things where we flip-flop from time to time just to make everyone happy. Because when I did ask, who prefers the morning shows and who prefers the evening shows, it was kind of a 50-50 toss-up. So without avoiding the people that are in different parts of the world, it would be good for me to do them evening and daytime. DMAC has a question. I'll answer the question. And of course, if you guys have questions, please jump in right away. This is why we're here. DMAC says, a quick update. I saw that Rival Sun show 2 weeks back. Really good show. I definitely want to catch them. Headline Smashing Pumpkins were great also, as was Interpol on that bill. So DMAC, when they came to Montreal, and unfortunately I missed that show, they were actually the only show. They were headlining that show. And I'm very disappointed that I missed them, but hopefully they'll be back again. They seem to enjoy touring Europe more than anything. I guess they have more of a following in Europe than they do necessarily in the US or Canada, but it's great to see them here. Definitely one of the great bands. Rico says, congratulations on the 30K. When are you throwing a party at your house? I'll bring the salsa. Rico, if I throw a party and I invite all you guys, you'll be the first to know. Absolutely. It would be great to do that. Quicksilver says he prefers the morning shows, by the way, if only because it's mid-Sunday afternoon here in Europe, so it's just perfect for him. I'm glad to hear that, Quicksilver, and I'm glad you're tuning in all the way from Europe. Very cool. So let's start with the questions, shall we? And I'll go back on the comments that I missed from the very beginning, and we'll say hi to people along the way. I'm just going through and seeing who's here today. Surf for you. Congratulations, Tony. Thank you, buddy. Peter England. Very cool. Shane's here also from all the way from Japan. We got a nice, I guess, United Colors of Benetton group here. Everybody from, California, Boston, all over the world. Very cool. Mark's going to a theme park today. Cool, Mark. Sounds like fun. I guess you're going with the family. Have a great time. Don't forget the sunblock. Let me just turn this annoying device off here. I get reminders all the time here, so let me just turn that off. All right, so I had a couple of things on the agenda for today. I'm going to just jump around here. And I have a guitar. Usually I have a guitar in my lap. I have a guitar right here by my side. It's my SG. I'll grab that in a second. But I was just finishing up doing a few things, so it was easy for me to do that without the guitar on my lap. If you guys are interested in getting one of these, hey Joe, nice to see you, man. San Francisco. I've always wanted to go to San Francisco, Joe. Never been. It's on my bucket list. If you guys want to get one of these Addicted to Gear stickers, I used to sell them. Well, I still do sell them on my merch site, but honestly, I'm giving them as a thank you for anybody who does a super chat, regardless of the amount. I'll just send you a couple of these as a thank you. So if you do a super chat or you feel like you want to support the channel in any way, just send me your contact information and I'll mail you one of these Addicted to Gear stickers you can put on your guitar case or something like that. Absolutely free as a thank you. So Eddie says he got a new guitar. What did he get? A Strandberg Bowden NX6 hardtail. Very nice. Congratulations, Eddie. You know what's better than getting a guitar? A new guitar? Getting two guitars. So, Eddie, tell me, how do you like the guitar? Is it everything you expected? Is it the main guitar in your collection now? Do you own others? Let me know. I'm very curious to see what you guys are up to in terms of acquisitions. Can't wait to perhaps see a video of you playing the guitar, Eddie. Feel free to send me some if you wish. I always enjoy getting videos and links from you guys on the side. Steven. Hey, Steven. How's it going, buddy? So Steven's doing some research. I ran the serial number on my Les Paul this week, found out it's a 1978, not a 79, like I thought, and it's a 44th birthday, and its 44th birthday was September 14th. We celebrated with Alexandria Zerner's version of Happy Birthday. Very cool, man. It is really sweet to have one of these, super vintage guitars. And just, like a fine wine, they just get better with age, in my opinion. And not only that, they also gain value. And I'm sure it's a guitar that you're probably gonna want to keep forever. So happy birthday to your guitar. 44 years old. Very sweet indeed. Is that the guitar is that your number one guitar? I would assume that it's probably, in the top 3 probably in your collection, Stephen. Shane, how's it going, buddy? He says, I wore my Addicted to Gear t-shirt today. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm sure you look spiffy in that t-shirt. I wear mine from time to time on the show as well, but I didn't wear it today. I just threw this on. I think I might even have a little bit of a schmutz on my shirt. I don't know. Something. Hey, Billy. Billy Beers is in the house. Paul says that the Strandberg is a keeper. You may get the other guitars, but you will have your new guitar forever. It's an investment, not a toy. So Paul's giving the thumbs up on Eddie's new guitar. And Shane says, if you do an evening show, do it earlier so it lands on Sunday morning for me instead of Monday morning. So I guess that would mean what, Shane? I would have to do it around 8 o'clock or something like that. You know what the issue is? It's just getting everybody to, 8 o'clock. Sometimes, people are still in the middle of doing things with their families, finishing up a late supper, or perhaps, so when somebody's busy like that, it's hard for them to tune in. I figure, 10:30, that around that time, people are kind of relaxing, heading for bed, just doing some late night scrolling on their iPads or something like that. So it makes it more convenient for most people, I think. But I'll try my best to accommodate. Perhaps what I'll do is in the evening shows, I'll kind of switch the time slot a little bit, so it's not always at the same time. For those of you here, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you don't mind smashing that thumbs up button, very much appreciated. Jeff says, I got myself a Boss GT100 this week, traded a bunch of pedals I haven't used in a while, still on the learning curve, but happy so far, couldn't stretch to an FM9. Well, Jeff, congratulations on the GT100. It's no slouch in terms of a multi-effects unit. Like, Boss puts out some really good stuff. I've owned some really nice Boss units in the past as well. And how many pedals did you have to sell or get rid of to be able to afford that unit? In a way, it's great. You're doing some house cleaning. You're definitely upgrading your sound. I think you're going to get a lot of mileage out of something like that. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I do that too from time to time, and I'm overdue actually for a housekeeping. There's a lot of stuff I need to get rid of here, and I should do that soon. Very soon, as a matter of fact. So congratulations on the GT1000, and take it slow on the learning curve, buddy. It takes time. I'm still getting my head around the FM9. I'll tell you a story, a funny story in a couple minutes there. Good morning from Boston, says Surfer By. Good morning, buddy. Eddie says the Strandberg is nice. The fan frets are something to get used to. Love the neck and stainless steel frets. I don't think I'd ever get used to those fan frets. I don't know. For me, it just seems very awkward. But I guess some people, it doesn't bother them and they like the whole fan fret thing. Very interesting design, I must say. Um, So Mississippi Blue says, "Hey Tony, you see so many videos on YouTube of players with different ideas on learning the fretboard. How did you learn the fretboard?" Uh, that's a very complex question. The way I do it, there's some tricks. I should actually make a video on that. I think that would be a good idea for me to make a video. If you start looking at the fretboard, and the way I do it is I kind of analyze where the notes are repeating. So as we all know, you have two E strings, the low E and the high E string. So obviously, if you learn the notes on one E string, you'll be able to apply it to the other E string, right? Then if you, for example, on the low E string, you fret the F, the F note, which is the first fret on the low E string, and then you move 2 frets down and you jump over a string, it's the same note, right? So you know that you have that harmony thing going, so you can then visualize. There's a few places where that happens on the fretboard, and you can start visualizing where the notes repeat, and you can kind of knock out a lot of the time it takes to memorize a fretboard just by memorizing those visual markers, and there's no shortcut. One tool that I really found very useful when I was trying to memorize the fretboard was a tool, a software. I don't know if it still exists. It might. It was great. I wish they would just release it as an app. It was called Fretboard Warrior. And it's like kind of like a game where you have a certain amount of time. They highlight a note on one of the strings and you have to name the note. And as you name the notes, it tells you whether you're right or wrong. And it gives you a percentage of your accuracy. And the time limit gets shorter and shorter. So it becomes really it kind of trains you to memorize your notes really quick. And I find that's a great tool. There's other people that have come out with similar stuff, but it wasn't as good. And it's just one of those things. You got to find the right tool for you. Steve Surferby says, "I have an 82 Les Paul Gold Top. Doesn't have a name either. Yeah, beautiful day here in Boston." So Gold Tops are amazing. I'm happy that I actually did the Gold Top refinish. And I'm happy to have another gold top in my collection now. I think the gold actually makes it sound a little bit better. I'm just kidding, guys. Let's not get into the tone paint argument. Never mind the tone woods. Apparently colors make guitars sound better, Certain colors. It's a psychological thing, I'm telling you. Steven says Alexandria's fan frets are different than any I've seen. The fanning is at the low end headstock and is pretty much straight by the 12th fret. She explained why she did it this way, and it makes sense. Have you guys ever seen, never mind the fan frets. The fan frets are pretty different. But there's definitely something to say about those wacky crooked frets. Have you ever seen those frets? Steve Vai has one of those guitars that have it basically what it boils down to is that all of the frets are compensated so that no matter where you play on the fretboard, the notes stay in tune, or basically you don't lose intonation, because no matter where you play on a fretboard, eventually a note will be sharp or flat. All the notes are not really going to be in tune throughout the whole length of your fretboard. It's just impossible. It's just the way things work, physics. So somebody's figured out a way to compensate every single one of the frets to be able to make sure that all of the notes are in tune, perfectly in pitch, throughout the entire guitar. But that means you have like a fretboard that looks like it was run over by a truck. I don't know how these frets are put in. I don't know how these frets are leveled or crowned. I really don't know how it's done. They must somehow be made that way, in that shape, off the guitar and then individually popped in. I have no clue. And to be honest, it makes my brain hurt just thinking about it. But yeah, fractal frets. Is that what is that what it's called, Stephen? Hey Prima. Thank you for joining us all the way from Spain. How are things? Shane says Billy Corgan says white guitars sound the best. I'm thinking candy apple red. Especially the Telecaster I'm about to put together. I'm hoping I'm not skipping any messages here. Surfer By says tone hair helps with tone, but that's a gift from God. Not everyone is blessed. Yeah, I hear you, buddy. And sometimes it's just a temporary loan. Mike says true temperament. That's what it's called. Yeah, I know it has a technical term. I just couldn't remember what it was. Paul says pedal of the week. Alexi pedals, Croatia 85 USD. Nago Viper clone of the Catalan bred with the same name, both a Range Master. If you need a tube screamer before they were invented, you got a RM. Very cool. So Paul, I appreciate your pedal of the week tip. Paul's the man to go to if you're looking for affordable pedals that are clones of other pedals that are probably more expensive. He always has some really good suggestions, and I'm happy to hear them. So if any of you guys want to check that out, feel free to Google it. Gary says, didn't care for the late night version, don't have time for the live or the rerun. Sorry to hear that, Gary. I'm trying to make everyone happy. But you know, when you try and make everyone happy, it's kind of difficult. Try my best. Most of the time, by the way, some people have mentioned this, where the show goes live once it's done. It's posted on YouTube and you don't see the comments right away. And I mentioned this a couple of times. YouTube takes a long time to process the video, and for whatever reason, whatever they do in the background, it just usually takes almost a whole day before you start seeing the comments again, which is a pain. I enjoy watching the comments go by. So if you guys see that happening, just be aware that it just takes a little bit more time. Yeah, Wayne, perhaps if you do drop some acid, the leveling and recrown would be easier to do. As I mentioned in the chat before the show started, there is a poll question out today. And for those of you interested in answering the poll question, please do. I usually aim to see what the results are towards the end of the chat, so that we get some stats and we get the heartbeat of the nation and see what you guys are up to. In terms of the questions, I can tell you what the question of the day is if you haven't already seen it. I'll just, let me grab that in real quick. I'll just go to the community section of the Addicted to Gear website. That's where the poll question is located, in case you haven't seen it. It's there. And the question today is a very simple one. It's, what level of training do you have as a guitarist? And it could be a guitarist, could be bassist, whatever, musician in general. And so you have 5 possible answers there, and feel free to answer that, and we'll get to the results in just a little bit. All right. Okay. So let me just checking to see whether or not there's any questions for me, and if not, we'll carry on with the conversation here. So we already had a couple of people talking about a new guitar, a new multi-effects unit, and obviously some classics, some classic guitars. I don't hear very much chatter about pedals. I don't hear very much chatter about amps. I'm thinking people don't really upgrade amps all that much. Maybe I'm mistaken. I know there's a few new amps out that look interesting. And one of the amps that I saw recently was an updated Blackstar. I don't know if there's Blackstar fans or owners in the house. I used to be one of them until I sold that amp. I had the Jared James Nichols combo amp, which I no longer have now. And the only reason I got rid of it is because I got the FM9, and I felt that the FM9 was able to do pretty much all of and more of what the Blackstar amp was able to do. But I see Blackstar has released a new version of the HT Club 40. It's up to a Mark 3 now. It used to be Mark 2. Now it's up to Mark 3. And it's a very nice looking amplifier. I didn't own one, but I know that they're pretty popular. I've seen a lot of them on the used market in the past. And I think the 40 watt version is really in the sweet spot in terms of volume. Looks pretty cool. It always reminded me of the Mesa Boogie amps. It has the kind of the same faceplate, same proportions, kind of the same looks. But I'm thinking that I should actually demo that amplifier at some point, take a listen to it and see whether or not it's a big improvement. Because sometimes what ends up happening is these companies do release a new version of something, but it's just like more aesthetics, or perhaps, you know, different outputs in the back. So little things like that. They don't necessarily revoice the amplifier. So as far as I can tell, the amplifier, you know, I think looks pretty much the same. They may have added a few different things. I think now they have a setting in the back that allows you to play with the reverb, and they usually use a digital reverb, and some people claimed it was too dark sounding at sometimes, so I think they put a switch there in the back so you can lighten up the sound of the reverb a little bit, and you can have either a room reverb or a plate reverb, and it's built in. And I think they also have a power reduction mode, so you can go from 40 watts if you're playing with a band all the way down to 4 watts, which is always pretty nice. I always felt that was a really nice thing to have on most amps. And I don't know what else they probably changed on there. They use this cab rig technology, which they call it basically allows you to get realistic cab tones through a DI, which is pretty cool if you want to play silently or record silently at home. That's always a nice feature to have. I don't know how well it works, but I know with the Blackstar amps, they're usually pretty innovative with that kind of stuff. They even usually have like a USB out, so you can actually take the amp and go right into your DAW if you want to record directly. Which is pretty nice. But in terms of the actual voicing, it's something I really have to experiment with and hear for myself. It's a question of sound, but it's also sometimes a question of feel, more than anything. And I don't know if the price went up. I'm not really sure. So I hope that the price stayed the same. Steve says he has a Blackstar Sonnet 60 acoustic amp and he really likes it. Some people don't like Blackstar amps. You know, there is a lot of people that they don't like the amps because of the way they're made. The micro circuitry inside the amp is very difficult to repair. You know, so if you have full-size components, you can take it to a tech and they're able to fix it. When you get into the micro components like you see in some more modern amps, what ends up happening is it's very difficult to repair. Not everybody has tools to be able to work on such small components. So that's one of the reasons why some people don't like it. Shane said he gigged with his Vox modeling amp today, didn't even have to turn the volume to noon to be heard. Yeah, it's, modeling is has a lot of positive points and some negative points. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's not for everyone, but if you learn to work with it, it's quite useful. And I still always say nothing beats the sound, the harmonics that you get, the dynamics you get from a real amplifier. But the modeling with all of its conveniences has a lot to, can offer a lot of improvement and make your life a whole lot easier. Surfer by says there's no shortcuts on fretboard memorization. Took me a while. I learned 4 frets at a time, practiced, said them out loud each day for an hour. When I took the dog out for a walk, it's repetition. That's a good, yes, it actually is true. There's no shortcuts. Another tip I can give you guys is also if you have a tuner pedal that displays the notes that you play, it's also great as a double check. So let's say you do what Surfer By said and you fret notes on your fretboard and you call them out to make sure you can memorize them and recognize them quickly. It's always great to use a pedal, tuner pedal, to visually check to make sure you're hitting the right notes and you're sounding out the right notes. Because sometimes you just get a little bit confused and you think you're sounding out or you're calling out the right notes, but you're totally, in the weeds, as they say, and you don't want to start memorizing the wrong notes. Profile Production says I have band practice. I'll watch later. I will have band practice tonight too. Profile Productions. I'm actually going to be rehearsing with the boys. Looking forward to it. So have a great band practice. Make sure it's productive. No fooling around, okay? Keep it professional. D-Max says, I like to see a Blackstar demo on the new amps. People seem to like the St. James models. I think they're trying to bridge analog and digital in a way that's helpful to modern players. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's the trend nowadays, is sort of to put some features that are very productive, friendly, and not to necessarily sway too far away from traditional amps, but some people do like some of the new technology that they're coming out with. So a lot of these amps that we see today are kind of taking advantage of all of that. Steven says, agreed on modelers. I love my little more for practice. And it's great being able to practice with some great sounds with headphones without necessarily disturbing the family or the neighbors. And Surferby says, I have a Blackstar 20 Mark II. I like the amp, sounds good, very light, but it's not working again. I wouldn't buy another. So there you go. See, this is what I'm talking about Blackstar amps. Sometimes they run into issues, not always easy to fix, and that's the thing. If you go with a point-to-point wired amplifier, for example, any tech can fix that. You can even fix it yourself, actually, if you're handy with a soldering iron, the multimeter, what you're looking at, so you don't kill yourself. You can definitely fix these things without too much effort. Heck, I installed in my Friedman Dirty Shirley, I installed the switch that comes with the new version, because mine was the older version, and I was sent the wire, the switch, and the I guess it was a resistor in there to install, and I did it myself, and I didn't kill the amplifier or kill myself. So that's the beauty of these hand-wired amplifiers. Yeah, Surferby, it is a great idea. You guys should take advantage of. Use the tools. A metronome is a great tool for learning. A tuner pedal is a great tool for learning. What else? A looper pedal, fantastic. You know, if you want to be able to just play over chords and stuff like that, it's a great way to do that by yourself while you're learning. Shane says a Boss Katana amp has set settings of 0.5, 25, and 50 watts. However, my Vox Valvetronic has a turn knob allowing me whatever watt level I want. Why didn't Boss do that? I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's a good idea. It's like a built-in attenuator. I guess there's some reason for not going in that direction. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's easier or cheaper or whatever. I know, man. Surfer By, I already spoke to my wife about it regarding Greg Koch playing in Boston end of October, which happens to be October is my birthday month, and I would really love to do a road trip and catch the show, man. I might still do that. I'm not sure. If it's possible, I would love to see the guy. He's like one of my idols. He's really amazing. I'll let you know, man. Yeah, and I'd definitely love to catch up with you if you're at the show. We can have a couple of drinks together. Steven, yeah, the Black Star is, they have both the tube version and the transistor versions of their amps. So you can choose whichever one you like. Peter says, I bought a Princeton Tone Master. Sounds great and is lightweight. I think the Tone Master amps from Fender ended up being quite popular. There was a lot of YouTubers that had jumped on the bandwagon and done demos of those amplifiers, which are totally all transistor. I think they sound really good. Do they sound like the tube versions? I don't think they do. They might be pretty close, but you know, if everything sounded identical, then nobody would be making tube amps anymore. So I think they both have a place. And for those of you that are not looking at worrying about replacing tubes and bad tubes and all of that, tubes are delicate, then a transistor amp is usually a more reliable way to go. But then again, there's people that do definitely love tubes a lot and are not willing to let go. The other thing I had on my agenda that I wanted to talk about beyond the Black Star amp is these new EVH guitars. Have you guys seen these guitars yet? So basically what ended up happening is that EVH, the EVH line, which I think is owned by Fender, they launched a Frankenstein Relic series. So they're basically like a Frankenstrat, like an Eddie Van Halen guitar, but they don't have the stripes on them. So they're basically heavily aged. They have the same routing, the same type of pickups. It's basically a Frankenstrat without the solid black, red and white paint color. And they retail for about, I think, $1,699 USD, which is not inexpensive. I think most of the Charvels you can still get for under close to, I'm not going to say under $1,000 anymore, because I think today there's hardly anything that's under $1,000. But I think there's they're close to the 1,000 mark. In Canada, they're probably 1,200 or something like that. Anyways, they're $1,699, and I'm not sure how I feel about these. Because you're getting a guitar that's clearly patterned after the EVH guitar, which I like. I have one. I built one of my own, but I built it with the stripes. I think somebody at Charvel realized very quickly that those stripes carry a lot of weight, and although a lot of people like the style of guitar, they're not comfortable necessarily showing up somewhere with an Eddie Van Halen replica, because then people are going to think you're going to be playing Eddie Van Halen songs all night long, and some people just simply can't play something like that on those guitars. So they like the feel, they like the finish of the guitars, but they don't necessarily want paint stripes. I just wish they wouldn't have necessarily stuck with the routing of the guitar, because they have the routing like the Frankenstrat, which is a sloppy routing. They should have just put in regular routing, kept the the bridge route, kept the neck route if that's what you want, and the Floyd, but made it clean so you can put in anything you want later on, and made it more practical. I don't know. What do you guys think about these guitars? Have you seen them? Would you buy one? Maybe eventually they'll come out with a version that's not relict and perhaps is, rooted the right way. Not sure. Eddie says he likes them, but not for 1,700. I agree. Shane says more relic seems to be Fender's bread and butter these days. I mean, what can I say? There's a product for everyone out there, and I guess people are buying them. So I guess they're gonna keep on making them. Paul says the Tone King Royalist Mark III was the amp of the week. It's their Plexi for $3,300 USD. And he says, I'm not impressed. Well, the thing is, Paul, I mean, everybody and their cousin releases their version of a Plexi, I guess. But if you're going to buy a Plexi, why not buy a real Plexi? Why not buy the Marshall? For $3,300 USD, that's probably the high end of the $4,000 spectrum here in Canada. You have a lot of choice when you're thinking about dropping $4,000 on an amp. So I didn't check it out. I know Tone King makes a lot of really nice amps. I don't know why you don't like it, Paul. Maybe you can give me a little bit more info on that. Maybe you've seen some videos that didn't convince you. But yeah, it's a lot of money. Dan says he owns mainly tube amps, but he does like his Yamaha THR for practice and work. And James says the more amps, the better. I agree with you, James. I definitely agree with you on that. The difference between, I guess, somebody like me that's addicted to gear and a regular musician is that what I like to do is I like to buy gear. In my case, I own a few different amps and stuff like that. And what I like to do is I like to have the ability to A/B the different amps, side by side, to be able to tell, which amp is basically better for me. It's not the type of thing you can do easily one amp at a time, because your ears don't remember what you heard. It's very hard to try a guitar, for example, put it back on the shelf, walk to the other end of a guitar store, take another guitar, play that one, and really compare the two sonically. You can get a better idea of the feel. You can try one and try another one, and you can definitely think, okay, this guitar definitely feels better. But are you going to remember like what the sound was? Not as much. And I believe that's true for amps as well. So I like to buy different amps and then be able to try them side by side in different scenarios with different pedals, different guitars, different types of music playing through them, which takes a long time. Like, you really need to live with an amp and play it like daily for a couple of weeks, I would say, before you really get a good understanding of whether it's a keeper or not. It's hard to do that really quick at a store. Try it for half an hour and say, yeah, that's the one. I rarely do that. So what I'm getting to is being able to be able to have a couple of amps like that, I have the luxury of trying one out, and then if I finally decide, yeah, this is the keeper, I get rid of the other one, right? And so that's why you will see gear changing behind me, coming and going. But then, of course, you get to a couple of very nice amplifiers or guitars. I call them gems that you don't want to get rid of, and you slowly accumulate. So the ones that I have here right now are the ones that I feel are really good and I don't really want to let go of right now. But there may be something that comes in the future and knocks one of these amps out. I'm not necessarily tied into anything, and I'm open to try different things. So for me, I think that's how I like to roll. So I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, or if you have a different method, but that's what works for me. Surferby says, buy a Brunetti Plexi, they're reasonable on reverb. I agree. That's why I got one in the background there. Right there. Boom. There it is. Brunetti. Yes, they're reasonable on reverb. And, a lot of people don't understand those amps. They haven't seen them. They haven't tried them. So I think the challenge with the Brunetti amps is that people are not really willing to buy an amp that they haven't actually heard or played through. But they're definitely great amps. DMAX says you can get a Friedman for less than those Tone Kings. Yes, you can. And the Friedman stuff is great. And it's still hand-wired, point to point. I love them. I'd snag up another Friedman amp in a heartbeat. And I'm glad I snagged the Dirty Shirley when I had the chance. Ed, yeah, I got the 20-watt Marshall. I still have it. It's right here. Right there. Boop. Still there. I really like that amplifier. The new Marshall that they came out with was very enticing to me also, but I think I made the right decision with this one. No regrets. Alex2112 wants to know if I've ever played a Seriatone amp, a Plexi or a Dumble. Great clones. I came really close to buying one of those amps at one point. I just didn't pull the trigger because I wasn't 100% convinced. And, they are great. I think the videos that I've seen sound like they're really something special, and they do, I think, offer great tones. But I was a little bit reluctant to do it. And, the tones I was after were really the Marshall tones. And I think, having the Marshall, the Friedman, and the Brunetti, and the FM9 kind of covered all my bases there. So I don't know if it's accumulating or hoarding. I don't think it's hoarding, because I have no problem getting rid of some stuff if I don't use it, where I think hoarders just keep everything. So I'm going to say accumulating, collecting, selectively collecting, I like to call it. Paul says a great Plexi sounds like a pair of old 501 Levi's and gourmet guys put a tuxedo on it. They sound like a $300 modeler. Lifeless, no balls, no rough edges, no point. I kind of agree. One thing about Marshall, the Marshall sound, is that it is rough. It's aggressive, and for those of you who haven't played a Marshall Plexi loud, take my word for it. It hurts. It's not for everyone. And you have to really learn how to manage the volume, how to manage the feedback, how to manage the tone. You can't hide behind it. It's really like, depending on what kind of guitar you're playing through it, it's gonna give you all the nuances, good and bad, of your playing. Where I do agree that a lot of these more boutique-y type amps that are looking at producing the Marshall sound, it's two different scenarios. When you play a Marshall Plexi, you got to play it loud. So what you're hearing on the recorded album is a Marshall Plexi probably being played in an isolation booth somewhere fully cranked. And that's the beauty of the sound. Can you get that in a room like this without killing yourself? Probably not. So that's why not everybody, can appreciate a Marshall for what it is. And they usually will buy one and then they'll say, it doesn't sound good on 3. That's because what you're hearing on the records wasn't recorded on 3. It was recorded on 10, right? So a lot of the boutique manufacturers, they're taking that sound that you hear on the record and they're making their amps sound like that at lower volumes, which sounds, in certain cases, like the Friedman, sounds fantastic. And it's really great to be able to get those sounds at lower volumes. They sound glorious when they're cranked up too, but you're able to get those sounds. So it's a different beast, and it's not for everyone. It's like, it's like a sports car. You can buy yourself a Ferrari or, another type of very expensive sports car, but you have to be able to handle it in the curves. And a lot of people just can't and end up killing themselves. Same with these old vintage 100-watt amplifiers that will blow your socks off. All right. But I do agree with Paul on that one. An attenuator is always a good thing. And Jeff suggests we take a look at the Audio Storm attenuators. If you're going to get an amplifier like a 100-watt Marshall or even a 50-watt Marshall for that matter, an attenuator should definitely be in your arsenal. So last week we talked about some crazy rock and roll partying and some stories that we heard through the grapevine of our idols and rock stars in the past, just, going off crazy rock and roll benders and ending up having to be tranquilized by the army, to be, removed from hotel rooms and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Well, just yesterday, I actually saw a video. This is funny and at the same time morbid and very strange, but I want to share this with you guys. I saw a video online, and I told you that I've seen videos and heard stories of Keith Moon putting pyrotechnics in his bass drum and basically blowing up his kit live on TV and stuff like that, almost killing himself with shrapnel. But yesterday I saw a video where Keith Richards was talking. He was being interviewed. And the interviewer was asking him about his heroin addiction back in the day. And, Keith, he's very happy-go-lucky these days. And he admits to everything. And he clearly says, I loved heroin. Which heroin addict will tell you that he didn't love heroin, right? And they continued the conversation. And eventually the interviewer asked Keith Richards if the story of him snorting up his dad's ashes was true. And I had never heard of this. And I'm like, what? I'm like, hold the phone. What I got to see this. And so basically, what ended up happening is that Keith was sitting at a table somewhere and he had his father's ashes and some of the ashes spilled out. And I'm sure they landed on a table where there may or may not have been a few lines of cocaine already lined up and ready to go. And probably got mixed up with the coke by accident. And Keith said, what the hell, bottoms up, and proceeded to snort the cocaine and his dad's ashes at the same time. So I never heard that story. Kind of weird. Actually, pretty darn weird. Amazing even. But I guess... back in the day, anything went. And he just admits it like it's nothing. Like, yeah, I did that. So if he's admitting to stuff like that, who knows what other juicy stories he's not admitting to. Shane says Led Zeppelin shark incident has its own Wikipedia page. Yeah, I think that's a well-known incident. I think a lot of people heard about that one. If anybody's interested, you can look it up. Crazy stuff. But I think the ones, I mean, drugs are going to make you do crazy things, obviously. But I think one of the most crazy stories I've heard was about Queen. Out of all the people, the band Queen, they were no slouches either. Apparently they had parties all the time, crazy wild parties where they had like naked servants serving drinks and food, women wrestling in a pool filled with like chopped up liver, and midgets walking around with trays strapped to their heads, with lines of cocaine on it and drugs on it for anyone interested in having a toot. You know, good times being had by all. That's a party. That's how you throw a party, right? I don't know if that stuff would fly today, but it did happen. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and or be able to talk to somebody that was at some of these parties. They probably don't remember them anyways, but crazy stuff. Alex says, Tony, is that one long guitar rack behind you holding all those guitars, or is it like 3 of them put together? It's actually 2. There's 2 of them. So you can see there's like the ones on the right here, and then there's another one there, and then there's my amps in the middle here. I'd buy another one, but I'm running out of room, unfortunately. So Steven, thank you, man. I'll check out the email with the logo. And thank you again for such hard work. Steven's a real sweetheart, and he's actually making me a Addictedtogear logo out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it with wood inlays. And the poor guy's put in so much time and effort. It's not an easy logo to do with wood inlays. But he's not a quitter, and he's moving forward, and he's sending me updates from time to time, and I really do appreciate it, Stephen. You're a real sweetheart. What else can I say? I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. James says, what's a good cheap Marshall amp? I think you got to spend more than $500 for a great one. James, I hate to break this to you, but I think the times of getting a good Marshall amp for $500 are gone. I think the minimum you're going to be spending today for a good Marshall amp is $1,000, probably more, especially if it's a vintage one. If it's a vintage one, you're going to be looking more likely around the $3,000 mark these days. Peter England says Richie Blackmore setting his guitar on fire, which spreads over the stage. I saw that video. Could you imagine if, he put the place on fire? He was trying to do his own version of the Hendrix thing, but it went a little bit haywire. DMAX says Jan Wenner from Rolling Stone is in hot water. Anyone hear about this? Maybe some great overlooked rock bands and artists can get into the rock hall now. I didn't hear about this. What's the story, DMAC? I'm going to have to Google this after the show. Thank you, Stephen. I'm glad you're getting some enjoyment out of the show, man. This is why we do it. This is why I try and keep it up. I appreciate it. Alex says a great Marshall Origin 20 combo. Yeah, you can get a combo. The Origins are going for pretty cheap, but some people don't like the Origins. They're not necessarily high up there on the I love it scale. Um, Jeff agrees. He says, yeah, go for the Marshall Origin. Charles is asking if I have all the parts together for the Telecaster build yet. I do not have all the parts, unfortunately. I've come to realize that I'm missing a couple of things, odds and ends mainly, like screws. I didn't have the proper screws for the Telecaster bridge. I mean, I did have the screws, but they were kind of stripped out. And that's because they were kind of cheap screws to begin with. I ordered like 100 bridge screws made in stainless steel, which should be arriving, so that they won't get stripped out and they won't rust out like that. So I was missing those screws. I do have some very cool pickups on the way for the Telecaster. And at the same time, I'm going to be getting some humbucker pickups as well, which are going to be going into another guitar. And I'll share all of that with you once they come in, and I'll show you all that stuff. I'm sure you guys will like what's coming in. And what else? Oh, and I was also missing some shielding tape. I like to shield my Telecasters. The Les Pauls are not necessarily, like, you can get away with not necessarily shielding a Les Paul because they are humbuckers. But Telecasters are noisy. So I definitely enjoy quiet Telecasters. So I ran out of copper shielding tape, and that's what I like to use. So I ordered some more. It should be arriving soon. And I don't have the shielding paint. I usually use the copper tape. I think it works nice. So once I get all of those items, I'll be able to. I've already started putting the Telecaster together. So I checked the neck fit with the pocket. I started drilling some holes and started working on it. It shouldn't take me that long. Shouldn't take me long at all. So Eddie wants to know what kind of neck are you putting on the Candy Apple Telecaster. So Eddie, it's a Telecaster style neck. It's roasted maple on the back, and it's rosewood in the front. Medium size frets. Should be pretty sweet once it's done. The only thing I'm concerned about is what I should put on the headstock as a decal. Got to come up with something for it because it's going to be, a custom build. So DMAX says, Wenner was interviewed by a book where he only interviewed white male rock stars. He said reason was female and non-white rock stars weren't articulate. All right. So I guess he's going to be in hot water. Presley setting up an Ibanez acoustic guitar for a friend. Very cool. I love doing that too, Presley. I just listen to podcasts and different things and just work on my guitars. It's relaxing and cheaper than drugs. Rico says, Tony, you cheering for Ferrari this weekend in Singapore? I always cheer for Ferrari. They've never sent me anything. All these years supporting them. Never got anything. Even had to buy my own shirt. Lempu says, you want great Marshall tone for less than $500, then make a 5-watt JCM 800 circuit. I don't know if you're going to be able to put something together like that. The JCM 800 circuit at 5 watts, I probably would not end up sounding like a JCM at all. It needs to be loud. So you can try, but I don't know how well that's going to work. If you really want to get something that sounds good for under $500, go with a modeler. You're going to be able to get all of the sounds that you want at any volume. So I had a funny story I wanted to share with you guys. I also did some shopping. not long ago, and I ended up buying over the weekend, or this past week, I ended up buying, you might not be able to see it here, but it's down there on the floor. Can you see that? Whoa. Probably not. Okay, so you see there's the head rush there, and right there, my pot's in the way. I'm going to try and scooch out of the way here. That guy, see it? It's a cabinet, but it's a power cab. It's a power cab made by Line 6. And the reason I bought that was because my head rush, the FR speaker that I bought, was not keeping up with me during live rehearsals. And it was basically the last time I played it, it started to heat up. I mean, it got really hot. And that's never a good sign. So I'm thinking before that thing explodes on me, I'm going to get something a little bit more rugged. So I ended up buying this Line 6 power cabinet, which is basically, it's an FR speaker, but in more of an amp cabinet type looking box. And I've been playing it through my head rush. Sounds great. But when you change anything in the chain, you got to update and tweak all of your settings. And it was a real pain in the behind because I had to basically reset a lot of the volume levels on my Fractal. Those of you working with a multi-effects unit, you know what the struggle is like. It's constantly a balancing act, and it does take a lot of time. But I had to basically do it, and I was resetting most of the sounds this weekend. And yesterday, like a schmuck that I am, I spent most of the day going through the patches and resetting all of these settings the way I like them to be with with that particular speaker cabinet. Not a pleasant thing to be doing, and this is one of the things I want to make you guys understand when you're dealing with these multi-effects units, is that that's the bad side. Let me grab this guitar. Ooh, past the wire here. Well, the good side is that I really enjoyed playing the SG because I'm going to be taking it to the rehearsal tonight, and I gotta say I'm so happy I bought this guitar, and I'm kind of so disappointed it took me so long to realize what a great guitar it is. The neck on this guitar is amazing, and the action is so low, and it doesn't fret out or anything, no buzzing. It's a great guitar. So I'm gonna show you what I mean, okay? If you guys are into fractals at all, and maybe some of you are not, but this is just a learning example in case you're thinking about going the multi-effects route, what you can actually expect part of the time. So let me just share my other screen here for you guys, and so you can see the fractal. Okay, so let me do this. You won't see my face here for a second, but that's fine. Unless I could. No, okay, I'm not gonna put my face up there. So here we go. This is the interface, right? And so basically these are my presets. So if you look here, you'll see there's presets galore. Looks like a lot of presets, doesn't it? Almost completely full, actually. Each one of these presets, so for example, if I click on one of these presets here, let's say I'll do FM Euro, okay? Each one of these presets has scenes in it. So a preset is really made up of, in this case, 8 different patches. So let's say you have 200 presets, multiply that by 8. That gives you the amount of sounds that you're dealing with, right? So the tool is amazing. You can get a lot of sounds out of this thing, but I want to show you something. So let's say I just strum. The sound is not high at all, right? Because if you go into the amp setting here, you'll see the level is set to -12 dB. Usually I set this to 3, and it sounds like this. Much louder. So if I have to go ahead and change this, there may be a global way of doing this somewhere, but I haven't figured it out. I'm not that smart. So I have to do it manually, which means I got to go into each one of these settings here. And if the patch shares the same amp, in this case it's a Euro Red Modern amp, then I can change it once and it'll change all of them. But if I go to the settings here and scroll down the other ones, and there's an amp that changes in the patch, so now it's going to a shiver clean, you can see the level is back at negative 13. So I got to change that again. And so I go down the list and just check all of the patches and make sure that now they're all set to 3 dB. And I got to resave them again. So I just, do that and save it. And I got to do that for like a gazillion patches, which is no fun at all. But yesterday I discovered that there is a software out there that allows you to make bulk edits with the FM9. So that is it's definitely a day saver. The only thing is I'm not certain it's going to work with the FM9. I know it's made for the FM3, and I have a little bit of hesitation trying to use it on the FM9 without really being 100% confirmed that it will work and won't like kill all of my patches, because the last thing I need to do is kill all of my patches at this point. Definitely want to make a backup before doing that. But it's just goes to show how much time and effort you can put into getting your sounds and getting them to sound the way you want them to. Is it worth it? In my opinion, once you put in the time and the effort, yes, because you're going to enjoy playing those sounds and you can really go out and tweak to your heart's content. But it's not for everyone. Some people just want to plug into an amp, play, and forget about everything else. Stuff like the Fractal and some other units kind of force you to be a sound engineer, to a certain point, and really understand the unit and how to squeeze out all of the sounds. So that's the downside, So later on today, I'm going to be, preparing and getting the rest of my sounds set properly so I can do a good rehearsal this evening. So not a lot of fun, unfortunately, but it needs to be done. Paul says, my go-to is an SG. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy, right? Look at this. You can get up to the last fret here without any issues. Get any sound really out of this, even cleans. So you can go from like super clean to face melting leads and everything in between. So and it's light. The guitar is so light. So definitely going to be the one I'm going to be bringing with me tonight. And I'm looking forward to it. The other thing I noticed putzing around with the FM9 is that my freaking cable that I was using to go between the FM9 and my cabinet, which is a Planet Waves lead, was extremely noisy. Like it was giving a whole bunch of like, hum. And I thought it was the actual cabinet or the FM9 until I plugged in another lead. Now I'm going, using a balanced lead and it's dead quiet. Like my guitar is on 10 and I'm not using a noise gate or anything. So let me just, do a little bit more of a, this is more of a crunch. Dead quiet. That's what I love. Clean. Thanks, Charles. I appreciate it, man. Like I said, it took me a long time to realize how great SGs are. And I'm glad I did. And I highly recommend them. Lampu says, I used to like low action, but I prefer medium action nowadays as it's easier to mute. Plus nowadays with the accessibility to modern PC board electronics and better ICs, any amp can be replicated for cheap. I'm not sure about that. You can definitely replicate an amp. But if you can replicate like a really nice amp, like a vintage Marshall, for example, like a really nice, whatever, JCM 45 or something like that, and get it to sound like the original, I'll be the first one in line to buy that amp. Honestly, I will. Hasn't happened yet, unfortunately. So Jeff says, one thing I discovered on the GT1000, there is a load of output presets, front of the amp, FX, loop return, etc. Even some specific amp front of the AC3. Dude, I know. I really know. I've been living it. I'm going to show you something real quick here, okay? Just bear with me for you, the guys that are not into this stuff. For example, okay, you're looking at this. All right, so right now I'm on the amp block, just this one block here. These are all the tabs related just to this one amp block. Check this out. There's tone, ideal, preamp, power amp, power tubes, power supply, speaker, input EQs, output EQs, dynamics, right? All of those is just for this one block. And you know, you go into a cabinet, for example, you have another 5 pages. You have the cabinet, the preamp, room air, align. You can mix cabinets, put more than one. You can do so many things with this. It's incredible. And at the same time, a little bit confusing. This is probably one of the units that has, I'm going to say, the deepest learning curve that I've had the opportunity to experience. But once you get your mind around it and you learn how things are done, it's crazy what you can do. You know, because there's so many options. It really is like option paralysis at one point, but you're never gonna not be able to do what you want to do with this kind of unit. All right, so that's enough about the FM9. I'll do a video or a show dedicated to the FM9 on its own, so that people that are really interested in that kind of stuff can get all the information, and the rest of you won't be bored to tears. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention was that for, you know, one of the questions I had about pickups in general was why I find it so hard to get a good neck humbucker. For me, a neck humbucker's got to be clear. Like if I play the neck on this amp here, on this guitar, you can, let me put a clean sound so you can, here, let me do this. I'll do just a clean, I don't know, clean, so. So that's the neck. If I go to the bridge, and put the volume on, you get this. Actually, let me change the patch here because this one has a little bit too much delay on it. So let me just go into something that is not necessarily going to be overdriven too much. Give me 1 sec. I'll find something here. I don't know what this is. Maybe this is overdriven too. Okay, well. All right, so this is the bridge. This is the neck. So you can hear that it still has a little bit of quack, even in the bridge. This is the neck. Sorry, this is the bridge. This is the bridge. This is the neck. All right. So, why do you get that woofy sound with a neck pickup? So this one's not that bad, but some of them tend to be worse. You get that woolly, woofy kind of sound, which I don't necessarily like. And I spoke to my resident expert, my friend Glenn, and he explained it to me. And I wanted to share it with you guys so that you guys maybe could better understand what goes into it. And what he said was, I'm going to just, I took some notes so I get it right here, okay? And I don't want to give you the wrong information. So he says, any wire with a current flowing through it will have a field of capacitance around it. If a pickup is wound neatly so that each winding is right next to the previous winding, this capacitance will give it a muffled sound. So we're dealing with tiny amounts here, right? We're looking like the thickness of a human hair or less. But everything is multiplied by about 10,000 because of that's how many turns of wire are on a typical humbucker. So to avoid this happening, you have to traverse quickly when winding a pickup or traverse randomly. So basically scatter wind a pickup. And that's going to basically allow the pickups to sound less bassy. And also the more windings, the more power, but the more power, the more bass. So you have to kind of balance all of that out. You know, not too much power to keep things clean, scatter wound to keep it more, let's say, keep more of the top end. It's a fine line between boomy and too thin. So for the people that are interested in pickups and are looking at why this is happening, would like an explanation, that's the basic explanation. So I hope you guys keep that in mind when you're searching for pickups. Hey James, nice to see you, buddy. Eddie says the fractal can do all that, but nobody has ever nailed Eddie's tone with it or Eric Johnson's tone. I'm gonna reserve my comments on that, but I gotta tell you, it's pretty close. Of course, the factor that is missing in that is not necessarily the tone; it's the hands, the fingers. Ben says, "Shitty, I missed the majority of this. Thought it was a night show." Ben, we're flip-flopping. You got to stay on your toes, man. No worries. It's going to be posted on YouTube. You'll be able to watch the rerun. Not a problem. Randy says, I love a mini humbucker in the neck. Yeah, a lot of people do love those mini humbuckers and the Firebirds, that type of thing. Steven says the distance from the bridge to the pickup is different. Although they pick up the same vibrational frequency, the neck pickup is getting more movement through the magnetic field or more voltage out. Yeah, I think you're right. So what Steven is trying to say is that when you're strumming a guitar, you know, closer to the midpoint is where it gets most of the vibrations. As it goes down to the bridge here, the vibrations become very much smaller. So you're getting more sound, more output, and subsequently probably more bass, right? If you look at it that way. Paul says, Tony, the best neck humbucker is the Firebird. It sounds like a fat Strat. A couple of companies do want to drop in a normal HB route. Yeah, I know. And there's a lot of people doing that now. They're jumping on the bandwagon. Very cool. And I should try that at one point. There's a couple of pickups that I found that don't need that though, because they're wound really well. The Monty's guitar PAF set that I have is great, and the high order pickup custom wound humbucker that I have in my Tokai is also great. Jeff says, I never get tired of saying how great the Sir Thornbuckers are, neck or bridge. I haven't tried them, but a lot of people like them. Hey, Charles. Yeah, take it easy, bro. Thank you for dropping in. Matt says, I love to hear about the FM9 reinforces sticking with an amp and pedals. Like I say, Matt, it's not for everyone. There is a definite learning curve. If you embrace it, it's great. It'll definitely pay you back in spades. But some people prefer to go right into a pedal or an amp and avoid all of the headache. And I totally get that. I was like that for a long time as well. Now I'm kind of 50-50. I enjoy great amps, but I also enjoy the crazy stuff you can do with a well-designed multi-effects unit. Tone is in the hands. All the great players can get their sound out of any amp. Agreed. I think so. A lot of people have commented how Eddie played through different types of gear, still sounded like Eddie, regardless of what he played through. And I think it's true. I don't think it's in the hands. It really is. I had a question, a really good question come through this week also about the recent gold top refinish project that I did. I get a lot of questions behind the scenes and I try to answer them through emails or comments that I get on my videos. I got a comment that came in recently and it was a great comment and I wanted to answer it here because it was kind of a long question and I thought it might be helpful for you guys as well. So Mr. Man 846 asked this question, and I don't think he's here today, but maybe he'll jump in later on or watch the rerun or whatever. But I wanted to answer this question. So he says, just wondering if the white primer was sanded after the prime tape layer was removed. So when I did my refinish, I primed the body. I basically sanded down the body and sprayed primer on it before applying the gold. Okay, so he wanted to know whether or not I resanded the primer. I did not. There's no need to do that. And as a matter of fact, the primer is the base. And if you start scratching the primer before you spray the gold with the gold sparkle, it's gonna show. You're gonna see it. And it's best to get as even of a coat with the primer that you can get, and then start spraying the gold. The less you touch it, the better it is, you know? And then he says, did you use oil and grease remover in order to clean and wipe off prior to prime and metallic applications? I did not, but it would be a good idea. Once I sprayed the primer, I didn't touch the top. So, you know, I definitely cleaned the guitar before spraying the primer, but once I sprayed the primer, hands off. No more oils from your hands on the primer. And then he says, what was the environment temperature during the painting process? It was basically whatever temperature was in my shed at the time. And I gotta say it was a little bit warm. So I think the paint actually dried a little bit quicker It wasn't humid, was dry, but it was pretty warm. And then he wanted to know what products I use. So this is quite an extensive question. Most of the time, people don't ask questions this deep. This is why I wanted to answer it live here. The products that I used were from Great Lakes Custom Color. I got all of the gold clear coat, the main gold color, and the primer, all from Great Lakes Custom Color. They have beautiful colors. They're located in Canada, and you can order everything directly from them in spray cans or something that you can put into a gun and spray. And then he wanted to know why I went with a white primer as opposed to a gray or black. Some people say that you get better results from gray or black primers. I read that white was good, so I went with that, and it turned out really nicely. I'm sure you can get good results from any primer. The gold flake covers pretty well, so you're probably not going to see any of the primer at all. And then he says, can you see what appears to be a thin white line beside the gold coat and binding once scraped? If so, how could that be avoided? So when I did scrape the binding, I did go a little bit past the binding in certain areas, which basically revealed some of the primer. But it was extremely thin. It looks more drastic on the video because it's close up, but you can hardly see it. Once I sprayed the gold, it pretty much hit it all up, especially after spraying the clear coat and whatnot. You know, it causes a little bit of bleed, and it basically covers it up, so you don't really see it. And that's about it. And that was his question, so I just wanted to answer that and go over that for him here. Alex2112 says, I have a couple of modelers. I totally get it. Technology asked to move forward. Yeah, man, you got to keep moving. It's great to be able to, you know, have some other paintbrushes in your toolbox to be able to, you know, play music. And if you can get the sounds that you're after, why not try? I've been doing a lot of talking, guys. I don't see a lot of questions here. I don't know. Are you guys with me here? Feel free to ask questions. This is not a monologue. It's a two-way dialogue. So jump right in, man. You're not interrupting me or anything like that. I'll stop and answer questions. Steven says humidity affects drying time more than temperature does. Most of the time, if it's too hot, lacquer will dry in the air before it hits the guitar body. That's true. And you'll notice that because you'll get, you know, overspray all over the place, and it basically dries like a dust in the air. So humidity is super important. Unfortunately, I'm spraying in my shed, so I don't have control of humidity, but I tried to pick days that wasn't overly humid. And Randy says, I'm a gear cyborg. I combine all aspects for my sound if it works. All you haters, I love Zoom gear. Great bang for the buck. I don't think, I mean, are there really haters? Yeah, you're either in one camp or the other. I mean, I don't hate people that don't use multi-effects units. You know, and I like using amps as well. So I guess I'm playing both ends of the spectrum here. But it's funny to me when I hear when I see articles where people are like making headlines because they decided to go the multi-effects route, you know? Who cares? Like, what's the big deal? You know, why is this making headlines? You know what I mean? You're switching from amps to simulations. And are you still sounding the same? Are people hearing the difference? Probably not. As long as you're getting the sound that you need, who cares? The last article I saw like this was one on Chris Shiflett from the Foo Fighters, and talking about how he was switching to a like a simulated rig, right? Simulations, and it was like almost apologizing, saying like, you know, he had to do it because, you know, the sets are so complicated and the equipment's delicate, and like, who cares? You know, if you're playing your show and people are rocking out, I don't think anybody's gonna really care. And he's not the only one. I mean, there's recent examples. There was Iron Maiden Dave Murray, who switched to the Axe FX. There's John Mayer, who had a little bit of an uproar when people realized he was using an Axe FX on his most recent album. You know, and Eric Johnson too has been dabbling with neural DSPs, and he's, you know, the epitome of cork sniffers. And he's doing it too. So what does that say? It goes to say that people are using the tools that they need. Dweezil Zappa's been doing it for years because he's been playing his father's catalog, and, you know, there's so many different sounds, so many different things that were used over the years in the studio that are really hard to reproduce live. And, you know, he's been using, I think, a double fractal for years now, and he hasn't had any issues. DMAC says, where do you usually sell your gear in Montreal? DMAC, I sell it anywhere, man. Either Facebook Marketplace, I'll use Kijiji. You know, wherever I could post my stuff is where I sell it. If you're in the market for anything, let me know. I might have some gear for you. Rico, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, congratulations on 30,000 subscribers. Your continued hard work has paid off. Have an espresso on me. Thanks, Rico. I appreciate it, dude. If you're interested and you want to get one of these Addicted to Gear stickers for your super chat, just email me your mailing address and I'll send it out to you. All right? My pleasure. Alex says, I use both modeling and old school. Love them both. I agree. Dan says, multi-effects, kind of like when Dylan went electric. Kind of. You know, people eventually get over it. You know, it's not that bad. Eddie has a question. He says, Tony, if you're going to relic a guitar, could you spray the paint thinner / lighter in the area to be relicked, like the forearm area? Well, Eddie, the key is, don't use polyurethane if you're going to relic a guitar. Polyurethane is too thick. You want to use lacquer, and lacquer typically is pretty thin. So you don't want to overspray. Keep the spray coats to a minimum, you know, the minimum you need, and it'll relic in no time. You don't have to worry about it. Just playing your guitar, you'll start seeing the wear marks on the guitar. And the great thing about using nitrocellulose lacquer or other types of lacquer is that if you ding your guitar, it doesn't chip. You know, it just dings it, but nothing flakes off like the polyurethane finishes do. A lot of people that don't get a good result with relicking is just because they're trying to relic a guitar that's painted in polyurethane. Jeff says, Nita Strauss is 100% modeling now. Modeling as in the picture, or modeling as in guitar sounds? James says, gotta have both types. I mean, you don't have to have both types, James. You can choose what works for you and go with that. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a cover band, or, you know, like me, you have quite a varied repertoire of sounds that you need to play, it doesn't make sense at a certain point, because, you know, you're going to have to buy a couple of amps, you're going to have to buy a boatload of pedals, and at the end of the day, you're going to get close to the cost of a decent multi-effects unit, and you're just going to realize, like, the noise factor of having a bunch of pedals plugged into each other on a massive board, you know, dirty power. You're never going to be able to get a sound as clean as this. I mean, my guitar is on right now. And I don't think you can hear any noise. It's dead quiet. You know, you're not going to be able to get that easily with pedals unless you do some, you know, you go high end all the way. Cool Tunes is here. He says, "Jello, everyone." Hey, Cool Tunes, nice to see you, buddy. I've been talking almost an hour, almost 2 hours now, man. Where you been? We've been waiting for you. James says, "Lover, accept the drum machines." And James says, got lots of pedals. Yeah, me too, man. Box is full. We were talking about people being in hot water earlier. What's going on with Steven Tyler? Is he still in hot water? I know that he was recently. He had some issues. I know he had some voice issues. They were doing like their farewell concert. He had to postpone some concerts. Apparently, he kind of, I guess, strained his voice. The doctor says no singing for like a month or something. I don't know how long it will be exactly. But he's got other problems because his career might be over. And this is, you know, with the recent developments that he's had about his long-term relationship with a underaged female back in the day that's coming to light just now. And I don't know why this is like making the headlines right now. This happened in the 1970s, guys. Because he's facing a lawsuit connected to his relationship with this woman called Julia Misley. In the 1970s, this happened while she was only 16. And so a lot of people are saying, you know, you're basically fooling around with a minor, and that's a no-no. Of course, it's not good. And I never would agree, you know, with anyone fooling around with a minor like that. But part of the story that I heard directly from Steven Tyler was that, you know, he approached her parents and told them that he wanted her to come on tour with him. And they agreed. They let her go. And she was a minor. So it's not like it was done forcefully. He asked their permission. And now, so many years later, it's biting him in the ass and it's coming back. And I don't know how this ever seemed like a good idea in the first place, but I think, you know, it's a question of jumping on the bandwagon when the jumping's good. And Steven's going to be in trouble. He's going to definitely owe this woman some money or some type of damages. And we'll see what happens. I mean, it was the 70s, guys. Remember. D-Max says, "I got an HX Stomp. 1 week, it's the best thing ever. Next week, I'm thinking of getting rid of it. Then the cycle repeats." D-Mac, I hate to tell you this, but that's what addiction is all about. You always think you have the latest and greatest, and then you end up getting something and you're like, nah, I'm sure there's something better out there. I do it all the time. Let me tell you this, it gets better over time. As you get older, the cycle is still there, it just kind of slows down a bit. All right. James, what kind of SG? The best kind. What kind of SG do you think it is? Let's play a little Jeopardy here. Who can tell me what type of SG this is? Take a look and you know, focus on the single pick guard as opposed to the double pick guard. Who can identify it? You'll win a prize. Cooltoon says he's been listening. He's been listening. He's been doing stuff. We'll test him at the end. Just kidding, Cooltoons. It's all cool, man. It's all good. It's all good. Surfer By says, "Tony, do you have any orange amps?" No. I used to have an orange amp, and it was actually a Marshall, a JCM 800, back in the day with orange Tolex and orange red Tolex. Got rid of it the Tolex, and eventually the amp. I should have kept it. It was a great amp. But no, I've been interested in the rock reverb, but I never actually bought one. But I love orange amps. They sound really good. Cool Tune says, can't miss a show. All right, man. I appreciate the support. Cool Tune says, Tony, your Blackstar JJN, you sold it. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's been a little while. I mentioned it earlier on. Just because I got this guy here, the FM9, and it was redundant to have both. And I decided to get rid of the lowest denominator, which ended up being that amp. And if ever I regret it, I'm sure I could buy another one on the used market at some point. But so far, I've been happy with the FM9. Yeah, James, I know it's about the money. We all know it's about the money, you know, but it's just the same thing over and over again, right? Eddie says 62 reissue. Gene says 61 standard. Cushman says 61. James says Gibson. Randy says Batman episode number. Because Randy says it looks like a bat, you know. The guitar looks like a bat. I think the guitar with the double black pick guard looks more like a bat. All right, let me just looking at one more thing here. We still have to answer our poll question. Yeah, when am I gonna get the Jackie Lee Mini? I don't know, Alex. I'm saving my money for the rumored Marshall clone that he's gonna be coming out with based on his vintage Marshall. That's what I'm saving my pennies for. I think it's gonna happen. He's been talking about this a couple of times. I don't know when, but I want to be ready. But the Jackie Lee model definitely sounds pretty killer. I wouldn't mind grabbing one of those too, but you know, I got to be careful. All right, let's go to the poll question. Should we go to the poll question, guys? Are you with me? Let's do it. Let me just jump over to the poll question. Has everyone answered the poll here or not? It's in the community tab of the Addicted to Gear webpage on YouTube if you're looking for it. And I know quite a few of you have voted. So let's take a look at the votes. We have 90 votes in. I think that's going to give us a good representation of the results. And the question today was, what level of training do you have as a guitarist? I was asking this question just to see, you know, what level of a proficiency we have here. So here we are. We have 90 votes in, and I'm going to go with the highest vote first. So at 39%, we have, I teach myself via YouTube videos and online tabs. So that's a good chunk of people doing the YouTube thing, which I think most people are doing to one degree or another today. Second is I've taken a few lessons with a music teacher, but nothing serious. 26% of you have taken lessons. 19% of you says I've studied for many years and have extensive training in music. Very nice. I wish I had more time to do that, honestly. And then 10% say I know I suck, but I'd rather spend money on gear than lessons. I know somebody like that. And then finally, 7% of you say I just dabble in music just to have fun and annoy the neighbors, which is always a good thing. Keep the neighbors on their toes. And then we have some comments here. Danop says, I've been taking lessons for most of my life. Best friend is a graduate from GIT. And we regularly Zoom and play together while teaching theory and different chord progressions. That's cool, Dan. That's the kind of friends I need to get. Free music lessons. Gene Cali says, you know the guy at a party that will see a guitar sitting on a sofa playing a few chords and the crowd will start singing? Yeah, I want to be that guy. You mean like the guy on the Dentine commercial? On the beach, picks up the guitar and starts playing. And then Sam's Budget Guitars 830 says, self-taught, no lessons, no YouTube videos, just listening to CDs. Like back in the old days, you know, dropping the needle on records and trying to mimic what you're hearing. Those were the good old days, right? All right. There was a question here. I'm going to jump back and try and answer that one. Surfer By says, what do you play the fractal through on a live show? So I think I answered that earlier. The answer to that is two things. I used to play it till now through a Headrush FR speaker, which lately has been having a hard time hanging in with the volume. So I recently bought a Line 6 power cab, and tonight I'm going to be playing it through the power cab. And I think it's going to be better, in my opinion. Mind you, the FM9 sounds killer with both the Headrush and the Line 6 cabinet being played simultaneously in stereo. And you can get all the panning effects. It sounds crazy. When you're in the room playing like that, the stereo spread is great. And you can get all of the ping pong delays and all of the reverbs and all these crazy effects happening. It sounds wonderful. That's the way it really should be played. All right. DMAX says, for poll question, I started to learn most theory-related stuff watching YouTube during COVID. A lot of people did. That's when the big uptick in guitar sales happened, right? During COVID. And James says he's better than ever. Davis has got to get ready for rehearsal. I got to get ready for rehearsal too. So we're just going to stay on just a little longer. We'll make it an even 2 hours and then I'll jump off. A few more minutes. Gene says, I've stolen so many licks from Marty that he has a restraining order on me. Does Marty still wear the hat? That's his thing, right? That's his identifier. Is the hat. I need one too. I don't have an identifier. What do you guys think I should wear? Sunglasses? What? A hat? I'm not sure. Steven says, I'm teaching myself with online help. Tabs are new to me. I love them. Always learn by ear or chord books and figured it out from there. The thing with tabs is that a lot of them are wrong. So you have to, they're helpful. They'll get you where you want to go quicker, but you got to be diligent and, you know, look at them carefully. Sometimes they're just plain out wrong. Sometimes the notes are right, but maybe in the wrong part of the fretboard where you can actually group them to make it more efficient. And he says, I paid $10,000 for Rick Beato's courses. Excuse me. How much are those? They are pretty expensive, aren't they? Eddie, are they worth it? This is my theory on books. Books are great if you read them. A lot of people buy books, including myself, thinking I'm going to just absorb the knowledge through osmosis and never actually take the time to read the stuff. And it sits on a shelf somewhere, you know? So let me know what you think, Eddie. I've been interested and thinking about maybe buying one of the courses myself, but I know myself too well by now. I'm never going to read through it. Or I'm probably going to read through a little bit and then say, screw this, I can do the rest on my own. Kind of like what I did with the FM9 manual. Alex says, Tony, do you bring your FM9 to gigs? How do you carry it in a suitcase? I have a special case that I had made for it. A custom case. You can see it in my videos. It's a really cool carrying case. I just put it in there and I bring it. I'm super careful with it. I definitely don't want to drop it and stuff. So I try and be very careful. Yeah, rewinding the cassette wasn't as practical as dropping the needle, Stephen, when you were learning songs through just listening to records. And the CD thing was never practical. So records are still the best way, right? Just drop the needle over and over again. Mississippi Blues has a question for me. I'm in the middle of building a couple of Stu-Mac pedals, a phaser and a fuzz. I've already built their 2 King Analog Man great pedal. Not that difficult to do. Have you ever built any pedals? I have, yes. I've built a couple of pedals from some kits. A really nice fuzz that was sort of a replica of a, was it the Lunar Lander? I think it was called the Lunar Lander. Really great pedal I still have today. I also made the Brown Sound in a Box pedal, which is basically an homage to Eddie Van Halen's Brown Sound, which is great. I put it up against my Wampler Pinnacle, and I like the Brown Sound in a Box more because I felt it sounded a little bit more like an amp, which I made. And I also made myself a fuzz face clone at one point. They turned out well, and I was happy with them. I was just happy that they worked, to be honest. I was actually surprised that they worked, but people are telling me I should be wearing like an eye patch, black shirts, Ace Frehley masks. I don't know. I got to think about it. Oh, man. Alex says, Tony, I love this show. I hope you come back again tonight for a double header. Oh, man, 2 shows in one night. I won't be able to do that tonight, Alex. I'm rehearsing with the boys, which typically ends at about 11 o'clock. So I'm going to be beat. Definitely no show tonight, but I'll probably switch it up at some point. And, you know, for those of you considering building pedals, it's not that hard as long as you take the time and you have a good schematic to work with, good instructions. I'm honestly thinking of building my own amp from a kit. I've been playing with that idea now for a little while, and to be honest, I think I'm going to do it. I need a good project to work on during winter time, because, you know, winter is like depressing. You come home, it's dark, there's nothing to do, it's cold outside. So I'm thinking about getting a Princeton amp kit and building my own. I haven't ever owned a Princeton, and I really like them. And I think it would be a good complement to my supersonic Fender that I have here as well, sort of a lower wattage thing. And to me, the Princeton reverbs, especially the hand-wired versions, sound great. And I got high hopes, high expectations that I can do it, and I'd love to try without necessarily killing myself. So who knows? If I can figure out a good place to get one of these kits, perhaps that'll be one of my upcoming projects, and then I can share it with you. And if you see me pop onto the show with curly hair all of a sudden, you'll know that I zapped myself a few times working on the amp. Dan, I don't think I'm going to come on the show with a banana hammock. Sorry, dude. I know you'd love it, but I don't think it's my style. Plus, then I got to get like a wide angle lens and stuff. It's going to be not going to be good. Oh, man, you guys. Steven says, I got good resources for all types of schematics in PDF format for most any amp or pedal you want. Well, that's good to know, Steven. Great, man. I'm not an electrical engineer or anything like that. I don't know anything about it, but I can follow instructions. So if I get good, clear instructions and I have some parts in front of me, I can probably do it, you know. We'll see. Anyways, guys, Jean-Pierre has a question. So let's answer the question. Besides 12-string guitars, do all guitars necessarily have 6 strings? Do some have 5 or 7? Well, if you talk to Keith Richards, he usually uses 5. He takes off the high E string, gets in his way. That's his style. Most guitars have 6 strings. You do have 7-string guitars nowadays too. Metal guitarists like to use the 7 strings, even 8 strings. I think you could probably get guitars in any flavor right now, but the 6-string guitars are typically the most common. All right, so I guess that's it for now. Thank you for tuning in to show number 167. And of course, thank you once again for helping me attain my 30,000 subscriber mark. I do appreciate it, and I definitely could not have done it without your support. And guys, honestly, I look forward to the Sunday shows, probably more than you do. So I really do appreciate you guys making my Sundays really fun. I'm going to leave you with this thought, inspirational quote, and I'm going to try and say it without messing it up. Where words fail, music speaks, right? So you guys, you got a talent, you got the ability to communicate without talking, playing your instrument, getting those emotions across. It's a gift. So take advantage of it. Enjoy your music, enjoy your gear, enjoy your guitars, no matter what the wife tells you. I'm just kidding, dear. I know my wife might be watching, and I'm going to be in trouble, but enjoy the music. It's a gift, and you definitely don't want to waste such a great gift. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week, guys. I'll fill you in on my rehearsal and let you know how it went. Maybe if I get an opportunity to shoot some video or something like that, I might even post it on my YouTube channel just for giggles. We'll see how the boys feel about it, but I'll be back next Sunday. I'm not sure if it's going to be during the day or the evening. One of those time slots. Just keep your eye open on the channel, and I'll announce it, and you guys can join in on the fun, all right? All right, guys. Peace out. Enjoy yourself. Have a great day. Talk to you all soon.